representation matters. Let's think about who was at this Last Supper. Um, we know it's at least the 12 disciples. Anyone else could have been there. I wouldn't dare say no one else was there because that's Jesus's business, who he wanted to be there. Um, but we know for sure the Peter was there. He had an anger problem. He had a major temper, but yet he was also a natural leader, right? And he's also known for denying Christ, which he would be doing, um, through the night into the early Friday morning, sometime. Andrew, Peter's brother, is there. One of the earliest followers of Christ, and we also know him as a very passionate person. James is there, one of Jesus's inner three, right? Because you can have your circle, but then you have that inner circle, and James was a part of that. His brother John was known as a person of intense passion. In fact, Jesus called John and James sons of thunder. It reminds me of my sister calling my mom and I thunder and lightning. I'll let you guess who lightning is. um, but it's true. That just represents their personalities. And then there was Philip. Philip was known for having a heart for evangelism and really propelling the gospel. Nathaniel, also known as Bartholomew, was there. He was known for his prejudice for Nazareth, so I can imagine that there was some difficulty there in the beginning, knowing that Jesus was from Nazareth, but yet he was the one. And so he had to overcome his prejudices for what his calling was. Sound familiar to some of us? There was Matthew, and Matthew was the tax collector. He was despised, he was ridiculed because he was considered a person who befriended the enemy, right? Here it is Rome occupying, um, the Israelites, and yet, or occupying the Jews, and yet here he is, a tax collector, collecting money and making sure Rome is taken care of. So he was often ridiculed, but a well-educated man. Well-educated, right? Well-versed, probably spoke many languages as well. Then we have Thomas, known as Doubting Thomas. Even though he asked a lot of questions, which I certainly do as well, I ask a lot of questions, but yet he was still loyal. And I think that's important to know is that, for those of you who have a lot of questions about faith, you still seek, you still want to know, you still want to understand. There's a place for you. James, the younger James, there were two James, okay? Not James, John's brother, but another James who was younger. He's there, and there's not a lot known about him, right? But yet, he was still one of the 12. There's a lot of things people don't know about you, right? You might still be growing. You still might be seeking your purpose. You might still be coming to understand what God has called you to do. Even though that maybe you don't know that yet, there's still a place for you. Simon the Zealot. Now, the interesting thing about Simon was that he was a political activist for Israel. And these zealots, by force, mind you, were real big about rebelling against Rome and wanting to free Israel from their occupation. Okay? So he had fierce loyalty. He knew what it was to be fiercely loyal to Israel, and now he was fiercely loyal to Jesus. And then there was Judas. Not that Judas, another Judas, also known by Thaddeus, but he was also probably the most obscure. There's not much known about him at all. But yet he was still chosen. But he was a mystery, right? So those of you who are a mystery to those around you, it's okay. There's a place for you. And then Judas, the traitor, right? Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. He was the treasurer. We know he was greedy. Of course, he would want to keep track of the money because he wanted to, be tight with it. Uh, but we see him as a man who was willing to give Jesus his years, but not so much his heart, right? And the things that he was dealing with and being involved in with addiction and idolatry. And so all of us, I'm sure, can find ourselves in these disciples. And Jesus communed with them. He ate with them. He spent his last night before his crucifixion with them. That's how much he loved them. And that's how much Jesus loves you. You are represented at the table.